don't mind bragging about certain things. I'm a pretty humble person in a certain aspect of life, but this I do not mind bragging about. I've got the best damn listeners in radio. And the email I'm about to read you is an example of why. I will brag about that all day. You guys and gals, we got the ladies out there too. You are the best darn audience in radio, and this email I'm about to read is exactly why. This is perfect. I'm going to save this email. It's a great reference point to describe what Syracuse Georgetown is. For those that want to snipe and nitpick and say it's not what it used to be, and I'm going to bring up another national aspect of this and kind of call my shot on this. As a matter of fact, it's already happening. But Andy Katz from ESPN.com wrote an article, is actually a blog entry about where have the rivalry villains gone. He writes about a rivalry and not a mention of Syracuse Georgetown in there, so I'm sure we'll be hearing from the Syracuse fans on that. But this is, I don't even do this, but this is the email of the week. And it's Wednesday, and this is going to be tough to beat. Listen to this is perfect on a number of aspects. It's well written, it's funny, but when you want a way to describe what Syracuse Georgetown is, here it is. This is from Carl and Clay. It says, Axe, my Facebook status for today says duck season, rabbit season. Don't be silly. It's Hoya season. No matter what cycles occur in college basketball, Syracuse and Georgetown will always remain arch rivals. My 15-year-old daughter, who no longer follows SU basketball, was surprised to learn this. She's a fan during the GMAC era, and to her, UConn is and will always be SU's number one foe. My response to her is that Syracuse is like Batman. Batman has more than one enemy, but UConn is the Penguin. Georgetown is the Joker. I mean, that's perfect right there. There's so many ways you can use to describe this, and the examples that you can make and the analogies you can put out there. That's perfect. UConn's the Penguin. Georgetown is the Joker. That's dead on right. Carl, spectacular email. Great Facebook status, by the way, too. That was good. But that is the best comeback you can provide. I don't know if your 15-year-old daughter quite gets that, but, you know, some people, the whole Batman thing's been lost on them, but that is dead on and a great response to something like that. I'm going to use that one, Carl. UConn's the Penguin, Georgetown's the Joker. Look at the current string of Batman movies. Which one did they put in first? The Joker. Batman's arch nemesis. Who's Superman's? Superman's got a lot of enemies. Who is his arch enemy? Perfect example. Perfect. Okay? I guess that makes Villanova Mr. Freeze. I don't know. We'll have to go through that. But Georgetown's the Joker. UConn's the Penguin. Perfect. Carl, that is a spectacular email. I'm glad you got that out there today. 671-1260 is the number to get on the Shapiro Motors phone lines. You want to send in a great email like Carl did to the Air National Guard inbox, axman@thescore1260.com is the email address to do that. Let's go back out to the phones. John in Liverpool's on the block this afternoon. Hey, John.
How you doing, kid?
Not bad, Johnny. What's up, man?
Well, I was a little surprised that the people in the know think that we're going to win by 5.5 points. These are generally close games, so I do think that we're going to win, but I think it's 5.5 points. I'd probably be putting a $20 bill on Georgetown in that.
Of course, if gambling was legal, right, John, we'd be doing something like that for entertainment purposes only. Just in theory, if you were going to do something like that, but always remember, it's not whether they think they're 5.5 points better; it's where they want your money to go.
Right now, let me mention you were talking earlier, Brett, about is college basketball weak or this and that. I think these one and done kids. If I was a kid right now and I was one and done, I wouldn't go to college. I'd go to Europe or Spain or Italy or something, Australia, and get paid, see the world. And then go to the NBA after a year.
There is actually, and his name is escaping me, John, there is somebody that did that. He, instead of going to college basketball, played a year in Europe, then came into the Brandon Jennings. Thank you, Steve. Brandon Jennings did just that, and people were starting to say, well, is this going to become the trend? Are they still going to go to college basketball? Because, John, that's where it's a good point. Thank you for the phone call. They'll find you. I mean, is college basketball the premier showcase for a player that eventually wants to get to the NBA? Yes, it is. And it still is. And it's still the ultimate, more NBA scouts are going to go to college basketball games than they're going to, go to Europe or go to wherever. But Brandon Jennings did just that. And are we going to see more people going down that path? Why do I have to go to class and do all these things that just kind of get in the way of my basketball career when I can just go do that? The NBA rules state you either have to be 19 or a year out of college. Or a year out of high school, excuse me. Doesn't say anything about, you can't come into this league if you played in another. Nice little loophole around the rule there. Axman at thescore1260.com is the email address. Let's read a couple more of your emails here. Robin Fulton says, Ax, following a 4-game losing streak, if Syracuse were to win the next 3 games against some solid opponents to then have won 5 in a row, what would that accomplishment tell us about this team? It's a very good question, Rob. I don't think they're going to get there, honestly, but not to cop out, not to back away from the answer here, but you know what? Honestly, the first thing that popped in my head when you said that was, and I read that email, that's the Big East. I know it's such an easy answer, but what does that tell us about this team? That's Big East. You can lose 4 in a row, you can win 5 in a row, and everything in between. Every good team in this conference this year has done just that. Maybe not the extremes of a 4-game losing streak or something to that nature, but every team has taken a little bit of a step back. I mean, Pittsburgh has been rock solid. They've been top 5. They've been as consistent a team as it comes. Per this discussion about college basketball this year, if it's down or whatever the case may be, I mean, Pitt doesn't have any standout, big-time DeJuan Blair type of stars, but darn it, if they're not consistent, they lost one of their better players on Monday and still beat West Virginia. So, Rob, to answer your question, and I hope you don't think I'm copping out here and it's just a cliche, but I think it's your answer. That's the Big East. Let's see. This one wasn't signed. I'll just say that Cop wrote in to say that they didn't leave his name, but I kind of see what his name is here in the email address. So I'll just say Cop, I guess, says, Ax, I love my Syracuse basketball as much as any other fan, but honestly, Duke, North Carolina is it when it comes to basketball rivalries. Just the hatred that comes from the fans, even the ESPN board. Syracuse, Georgetown has quieted down, but the UNC Duke board is crazy. Cameron Crazy's no student section is better. Says it well right there. Jeff in Syracuse says, Ax, the worldwide leader has dubbed this rivalry week, which is why we play Georgetown in the middle of the week. I would argue that playing before Duke, North Carolina shows the strength of the rivalry. Other games pale in comparison. And, oh yeah, Georgetown still sucks. Jeff in Syracuse on the email. Our boy Ty writes in, of course, the producer of the Bud and the Man-Child program, when we were talking about if college basketball is down or not and what kind of tournament that could equal. He says, Ax, don't forget, I nailed all 4 Final Four teams a couple years ago. There are exceptions to all rules. Yeah, that was just dumb luck, Ty. I don't know if you want credit for that or something, but you're not going to get it from me. 671-1260 is the number. Axman at thescore1260.com. The email address, if you want a career that fits your life, can help you succeed faster, you can do it. Training part-time in the Air National Guard. Call 1-800-GO-ANG to find out more. Steve Nykum joins us in studio for the Syracuse Sports Flash here. And see, Steve, that's it. That email that I read a few minutes ago from Carl, that sums it up perfectly. Batman has a number of enemies, but his arch enemy, his number one guy, is the Joker. UConn's the Penguin, Georgetown's the Joker. End of story.
I think I can agree with that. Georgetown, just because of the history that's there, and especially for longtime Syracuse fans, they're always going to be the number one rival. But I think what's happened is you've seen that the gap is closed a little bit.
I got to interrupt you because I just saw this email pop into my inbox here. Stephen, North Syracuse. This is great. That's why I love that. I tell you, I've got the best listeners in radio. I literally just saw this email come into my inbox. I saw the headline. I've got to read it here. So we've determined that Georgetown's the Joker. UConn's the Penguin. Here's what Steve adds. Louisville's Catwoman. Villanova's the Riddler. Pittsburgh is Mr. Freeze. That is fantastic. Steve, I'm going to read the rest of your email coming up here because we're going to get to the email, to get to the update, I should say. But I saw that. That's fantastic. Sorry to interrupt you, Steve, but that was just great.
That's some good stuff.
Louisville's
that is great
Catwoman.
stuff.
There you go. Oh, that's perfect. We should just walk away right now. It's not going to get better than that.
The one point I did want to make as to why it seems like maybe UConn and Villanova rivalries have closed the gap is if you look at recently, the Syracuse-Georgetown rivalry doesn't really have a game to sort of hang its hat on, whereas the attendance games with Villanova and the 6 overtime game against Connecticut in the Garden are a lot fresher in everybody's mind.
You know, that's a good point. I mean, last year, again, there was the 14-0 lead, but Syracuse eventually overcame that, and, won the game. There was the game in the Big East tournament, which was close, and AO went down, so there's kind of a but to that story. But I think that's a good point. The Villanova attendance games, the 6 overtime game. Syracuse needs a good old-fashioned, back-and-forth classic with Georgetown to kind of put a little life into it, which some people would say the Big East tournament game last year kind of did. But I think that's a good point, Steve. Let's get your update. Syracuse Sports Flash Time. Steve Nykum, the man who's got to sit down. The studio's so darn small. Let's hit it.
Rivalry week continues as Syracuse will host arch nemesis Georgetown in the Carrier Dome tonight. Both teams come in with identical 7-4 Big East records. The Hoyas are riding a 6-game winning streak into tonight, while the Orange have won 2 straight, including a 72-49 rout of USF on Saturday. Danny Parkins takes your calls on the Miller Lite postgame show after the game. Other key games on the schedule tonight include Louisville at Notre Dame, Villanova at Rutgers, Texas at Oklahoma, and Carolina at Duke. NFL owners and members of the Players Association are meeting in Washington today to discuss the new collective bargaining agreement. Meetings are expected to last until about 7 tonight and resume again tomorrow. In hockey news, Anaheim has acquired Francois Beauchemin from Toronto in exchange for Joffrey Lupul, Jake Gardner, and a conditional draft pick. I'm Steve Nykum with your Syracuse Sports Flash. More on the block coming up.